So hello and welcome to Philanthropy New York's 40th annual meeting. As I said, please take your seats so we can get going with the business meeting portion of today's events as we look forward to our program, Reframing Philanthropy. This meeting is and will be live streamed, though not in its entirety, and we will notify you in the live streaming audience during the portion that we will turn off the cameras. It's my pleasure to formally call the 40th annual meeting of the members of Philanthropy New York to order. I'm sorry that we can't do this outside. I tried to talk to the teacher, but she was resistant. There are specific actions, including sharing certain information that we need to take as required by New York State law and our own bylaws at the annual meeting. In order to meet those requirements, we are going to first provide a summary of our audit report. We will then hear from the Governance and Nominating Committee about new board members on whom we will ask you to vote. Both Ronna Brown, PNY's president, and I will make a few remarks about the work of Philanthropy New York. We will then close our formal meeting with the first ever Philanthropy New York David Rockefeller Award for Leadership before turning to our program of activities. As we start, I want to offer a thank you to Philanthropy New York's Board of Directors for generously hosting our annual meeting this year. So thank you for that. And it's now my privilege to introduce Jane O'Connell, Board Chair of the Altman Foundation and Vice Chair of the PNY Board, to join me on the stage. Jane will take us through our quorum requirements, the minutes, and the board report.
Hi, everyone. I have the most exciting role today. And there's not much variation you can do to change it either. Next page. Okay. Members may participate in the annual meeting either by proxy or by attending in person. To have a quorum for this meeting, we need 10% of the voting members represented, or 28 members either in person or by proxy. I have 15 proxies on my seat, so we're good on that, and well over 13 people in attendance. Thus, we have exceeded our required quorum. I think we have 13, but not many more. Please turn your attention to the draft minutes of the 39th annual meeting. They were distributed by you along with the notice of the annual meeting sent in April. Are there any corrections? May I have a motion to accept the minutes? Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? I vote the proxies in favor. The minutes of the 39th annual meeting are now approved. You're next.
All right. Thank you.
That was very exciting.
Very exciting. Thank you, Jane. As noted in the audit, Philanthropy New York closed 2018 on solid financial footing with a little over $7.9 million in net assets. The board continues to maintain a six-month reserve fund, and for about the last 15 years, we've provided comprehensive fiscal sponsorship services to our members in support of their work. And this fiscal sponsorship program is a robust and important source of revenue for PNY. So we encourage all of our members to come to PNY with appropriate projects. Does anyone have any questions about the financials? If any member has a question that they don't want to ask now, please contact anyone on the executive committee in the future. I now ask co-chairs of the Governance and Nominating Committee, Kyung-Yoon and Pam Foster, to join me on stage. Kyung-Yoon is the president of the Korean American Community Foundation, and Pam Foster is the COO of Co-Impact.
Thank you, Mike. Philanthropy New York has a dedicated board, and each member is committed to ensuring that this organization is a vital and important resource for the philanthropic community in New York. The Governance and Nominating Committee is responsible for nominating new candidates onto the board. The committee is comprised of both current and former PNY board members, and it is uniquely qualified to determine the leadership needs of PNY. We would like to thank the members of this committee: Doug Bauer, Pam Foster, Lisa Lynn, Philip Lee, Paula Luff, Jason McGill, Leticia Peguero, and Liz Sack. and our ex officio member, our board chair, Mike Pratt. Thank you all for your great work this year.
Before we turn to nominations, we want to take a moment to thank the board members who have completed their terms. Paula Luff, Jane O'Connell, and Susan Olivo, each of you have been extraordinary board members and contributed in many ways. Paula, Jane, and Susan, please join us on the stage as I tell our members about just a few highlights from your 6 years of service. Paula Luff, Director of Sustainability and Impact at Inherent Group, has served on the board since 2013. She and Jane have served as outstanding co-chairs of the Committee on Members for the past 3 years. Paula also was on that committee, providing critical support even prior to that role. Paula also served on the Promising Practices Task Force and the Governance and Nominating Committee. Finally, she has served as a mentor for the Young Leaders Breakfast Club and on the 2016 Strategic Planning Committee. Jane O'Connell, board chair of the Altman Foundation, has also served on the board since 2013. She co-chaired the Vision for 2025 campaign and was its primary strategic thinker. I cannot emphasize enough how critical that campaign was for PNY. She served as co-chair of Committee on Members with Paula and was vice chair of the board and served on the executive committee. She serves as a lead member on the Trustee Network Steering Committee and was on the 2016 Strategic Planning Committee. Susan Olivo, Executive Director at Reader's Digest Partners for Sight Foundation, joined the Board of Directors also in 2013. She is co-chair of the Committee for Equitable and Inclusive Philanthropy and has been for the last 5 years. Along with her prior 2 co-chairs, she reimagined the committee and helped make it an energetic and vital group today. She's also an active member of PNY's CEO Roundtable Luncheons and served as a mentor for the Young Leaders Breakfast Club. We want a quick photo of our departing board members as we hand them their gifts. And these gifts are merely tokens of their very important service. There is literally no adequate gift we can provide, though apparently we've tried.
We have 3 new slots to fill on the board for this next 3-year term, and 3 board members who have been nominated for a second term. So all 6 nominees have been formally nominated by the committee, and now our bylaws require a vote of the membership in order to elect them to the board. So I will ask that all candidates stand when their names are called. Please hold your applause. Our 3 returning board members nominated for their second 3-year term are Charles Bice, Tiger Foundation, Pam Foster, Co-Impact, Yancy Garrido, the Clark Foundation. Okay, and then Pam.
Our 3 new candidates nominated for their first 3-year term are Rosanna Ibar, William T. Grant Foundation, Neil Coleman, the Trinity Church Wall Street, and Laura Packer, the Howard Gilman Foundation. I know Rosanna could not join us today, but Neil and Laura are present, as are the returning board members. Kyung and I will now hand the proceedings back over to Mike for the formal vote.
Thanks so much. On the recommendation of the Governance and Nominating Committee, I move for the election of these individuals. Their bios were sent to each member prior to today's meeting. A motion? Do I hear a second? All those present who are in favor of electing these individuals, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Are the proxies being voted? Jane. Good. All 15 of them, indeed, or however many there are. Any opposed? Congratulations to our new board members. I would also like to recognize and thank all of the PNY board members who are our hosts. Will all board members present please stand? Thank you. At the March 5th, 2019 board meeting, the executive officers for 2019-2020 terms were also elected. Kyung Yoon will be the board chair, serving a 2-year term. Pam Foster and Pat Swan will be our 2 vice chairs. Jean Hawes will be our treasurer, and Charles Bice will be our secretary. So thank you for that. Let me just, if I could, reflect a little bit on my 2 years as board chair as my term comes to a close. Most obviously, I'm really proud that Philanthropy New York remains in great fiscal health, and that is due mainly to our engaged and stable membership. As chair, I'd like to extend our deep gratitude and appreciation for your continued commitment and the trust you have placed on the board. The major financial sustainability advance in 2018, which is sort of the core of our sustainability, and yes, it actually happened formally in 2019, but was our move into this magnificent building. I hope over the last few months you've gotten a chance to experience how well this building is working for PNY, for all the gatherings, all the sense of camaraderie and the interchange with the other uses of the center. And also, more importantly, to wean yourself away from the subtle charms of Times Square. The move was a big decision, and your board of directors weighed and discussed it carefully. Ultimately, this move will ensure the long-term sustainability of Philanthropy New York. And again, we couldn't have done it without the steady support from you, our members. So thank you. But clearly, we want to be, and I believe we are, much more than a stable service organization with a nice home. This moment of crisis that we find ourselves in, from the existential challenge of climate change and the intolerable growth of economic inequality, to the daily assaults on our democratic norms, requires us to be much more. This is what today's program is really fundamentally about. PNY's strategic plan, which I had the pleasure to help craft, calls for PNY to support and lead members as they work together to help develop a more equitable, sustainable, and democratic society. And over the past 2 years, this organization has risen to the difficult task of both supporting and leading. Most important, we've tried not only to convene and educate members around current issues and promising practices, but to do the harder work of examining our shared fundamental values, naming them and seeking to imbue them in all that we do. I'm deeply proud of the commitment PNY has made on racial equity. Our extraordinary staff and my fellow board members have dug deeply and repeatedly, both professionally and personally, at board meetings, at staff retreats, and elsewhere. Amongst the staff's accomplishments in that area has been the development of a new series for our members, Equity Speakers, Exploring Racism in America. We were honored to welcome MacArthur Fellow Titus Kaphar and Dr. Ibram X. Kendi for 2 separate sessions exploring how racism shapes our politics, influences our institutions, and constrains the impact philanthropy hopes to achieve. In April, we hosted Color of Law author Richard Rothstein, who looked at how government, at all levels, created and supported segregation in housing after World War II. By understanding how systematic racism has been constructed and maintained, we can take responsibility for helping to tear it down, making racial equity a lived value, not the tagline of the moment. None of that work would be possible without our wonderful staff. Led by Rana, Catherine, and Kristen, they have created a thoughtful, reflective learning community. The numbers are kind of astounding. Over the last year, PNY has offered 277 programs and events to its members, 137 of which we actually hosted at our offices. Webinars jumped by 84% last year over the year before. Staff also supported numerous member-led working groups and committees, including Funders for Gender Equity and the Committee for Equitable and Inclusive Philanthropy, which continued our commitment to collaborating, convening, and sharing information. So I thank you for the privilege of helping to lead PNY and to work with what is truly an extraordinarily talented, dedicated staff. I think we can all acknowledge that us philanthropoids are not the easiest bunch. I will avoid the herding cats metaphor out of respect for the cat lovers in the room, but the entire staff has done a brilliant job. And our board, it's an extraordinary group of dedicated, collegial, and I dare say, fun group of people. I recommend board participation to all of you. It's a wonderful learning and uplifting experience. And while it will not come as a surprise to anyone, but yes, it is true, up close and in the trenches, Rana is just as smart, dedicated, and warm as she appears from a distance. These are tough, challenging, and scary times. But in philanthropy, we are privileged to have the opportunity to support brave people and organizations seeking to change the world. And I'm happy to say, more than ever, Philanthropy New York is right there beside you. Thank you. I'd like to now ask PNY's president, Ronna Brown, to deliver her report. Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Mike. It's really nice to see all of you here today for our 40th birthday. I'm going to keep saying that a couple of times throughout the day because it's been a while since anyone said happy 40th to me. So I'm very excited about this. Mike rightly called out Catherine and Kristen as important PNY staff leaders. The truth is they're amazing, and we have a total of 14 amazing people, all of whom I have a feeling are working very hard in other parts of this building. But I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge that there is an extraordinary staff at Philanthropy New York, and I feel very honored to work with them. Mike shared some reflections about his tenure as the PNY board chair. And part of that was really leaving you sort of centered on where Philanthropy New York is today. I want to just take us back, and I promise it'll be fairly brief, 40 years ago to 1979, when the New York Regional Association of Grantmakers, the first name of this organization that had that completely crazy acronym, NIRAG, was created. I think we can all sort of see what that beginning was like, right? A small group of program officers came together to actually formalize what had been informal. They had been gathering and really appreciated how critical their conversations were to helping them do good work. And so they created an organization, NIRAG. They did a great job, and they built it so successfully over those first literally 11 years that by 1990, NIRAG was not only a place where grant makers were coming together, but it was actually already thinking about the field of philanthropy itself. In fact, in 1990, the board created and adopted a formal policy on diversity and inclusiveness for the entire grant-making community of NIRAG and for the staff itself. That policy and the journey that followed leads us directly to the racial equity work we're doing today. I don't know, did many of you have a chance to look at that timeline that's outside, right where the snacks and everything are coming in here? I don't know if you have or not. Please do. It's in the bottom of your program, but we actually have a really big timeline out there. And the reason we put it on that wall, and we did it in sort of large way, was because we're really hoping that every one of you will both look at it and you'll have a chance to see some of the journeys, like the journey around racial equity and our journey around public policy. You will see all of that reflected on the timeline. And in addition to that, we really want you all to scroll all over it. Right when you first came to a program or something that really worked well for you, or whatever else you want to say. But we're hoping to capture your comments and the rest of the folks who will come during the course of the day. And then the whole thing will be saved. You're going to see it often during our 40th year. So we're now going to move into those first 3 decades. NIRAG, and by that I actually mean the entire membership, the board, and the staff, expanded and evolved its thinking about what it took to really build the field of grant making. NIRAG and our peer organizations around the country all understood that knowledge sharing, convening, and training were all going to help support the increasingly professional field that was really committed to doing the best work possible. We're now cutting to the fall of 2008, when the world, our country, this city, had huge economic shocks to our system. That crisis, which actually lasted several years, was so painful for the communities that you support, for the grantees that are your partners. Many foundations' endowments were also hit pretty hard. All of that required rethinking about how to best use the resources that were available given the incredible need. In hindsight, and it is only in hindsight that I see this, the answer to the question of how to most effectively use philanthropic resources and all the other tools, money and everything that grant makers have at their disposal, all of those things together ended up increasing the attention to what we are now calling promising practices in the field. I want to give you a couple of examples. Support for advocacy, a commitment to collaboration, streamlining grant applications and reports, partnering with grantees and examining how you share power, bringing community voices to the table, and a deep commitment to equity, specifically racial equity. None of those strategies or practices were new in 2009, but the increased and in some cases renewed attention was new. An early reflection of what was an evolving vision was a new name for us. In 2009, NIRAG became Philanthropy New York. And it wasn't only that we got a better name, at least we all think it's a better name, but it's also that it really represented a desire both on the part of the board and the membership to expand our reach and become a collaborative hub for philanthropy in this city. With the board's encouragement, PNY rose to the occasion in the years that followed in this way by creating programs that highlighted those promising practices, by convening members in newly formed collaborative groups, and by starting our own work around advocacy and public policy, including taking formal positions as an organization. That vision evolved into our current strategic plan, which goes until 2021. Our current plan is a bolder vision. It calls for PNY to support and to lead members as we all work together strategically and thoughtfully to support the changes needed to develop a more equitable, sustainable, and democratic society. That plan reflects that we have grown more comfortable and confident as an organization about having a point of view about what impactful and effective grant making looks like, and that we can embed those ideas in the programs that we create, in the networks that we support, and in the relationships that we help you develop and sustain. In short, we can both meet the needs of our members by expanding our work and programming and have a clear point of view about what practices support the work that will lead to a more equitable and democratic society. Our aim is to do all of that. We hope we do, and that represents a huge change from that first meeting of program officers back in 1979 who gathered together to create this organization. But I do hope that we are still at our core, that we still have the heart that came with that first meeting, and that funders understand that coming together with us to share and learn can be with open and candid conversations where we all share the same goal of improving the social good. So, here we are at 40, in this amazing city and this extraordinary building. Everything that we do, the staff and the board, is in tandem with our members. Without your vision and your commitment to supporting the field of philanthropy, we wouldn't exist. With your continued support, we can continue to work together to create the vision that we all hope to see. So we'll end where we started, and I want to say, all of us together, regardless of your age, happy birthday, Philanthropy New York. That's what we forgot, was a birthday slide. I want to now ask our chair, Mike Pratt, to come back to the stage so that I can thank him for his board service on behalf of the entire board. When I first met Mike, I thought he seemed like a very low-key kind of guy. But I very quickly realized, with no sense of humor, but I very quickly realized he is passionate about philanthropy, and in particular, the mission of the Sherman Foundation. When his term started, he had just finished being the chair of our strategic planning committee. And the organization, the board, had done a bunch of hard work over those 2 years. So the former chair, the one who was departing at that moment, Phil Lee, and I promised Mike that he had an easy 2 years in front of him. The board is laughing because that didn't turn out to be fully accurate. But what I will say is all of the things that we have worked on these last 2 years, you have led us beautifully, and everything has ended well. So I'm happy to say that. A couple of the details. Mike chaired the Strategic Planning Committee, which led to our new strategic plan. And in our plan, one of the elements was that as an organization, we really want to highlight and promote promising practices in the field. Mike's vision and persistence has really helped lead us into ways where we can do that successfully as an organization. And as Mike mentioned, he has led the board in starting its own racial equity learning journey. Another small percent of the board chair's work, I hope it's a small percent, is to listen to me when there are things that come up where I really need either a shoulder or a lot of wisdom, and sometimes it's both, and I got that consistently throughout these 2 years from Mike, for which I'm deeply grateful. So the best present I can give Mike right now is actually, I am giving you back July and August 2019 without a big PNY issue that must be resolved. Oh, and we have one more gift for you. Hold on. A beautiful gift from Stu Ben that we hope will sit proudly in your office. You can undo it or not, let people see whenever. That's up to you.
Absolutely.
All right. So we are not done with honoring Mike and the idea of board leadership. I am now honored.
I'm just showing it off.
All right. I am now very honored to ask David Rockefeller Jr. to join us on this stage and present our board chair with the first ever David Rockefeller PNY Leadership Award. We were thrilled to accept a grant from the Rockefeller Family Fund that would allow each of the next 10 board chairs post-grant to direct a gift to a charity of their choosing as a way to honor their service. Mr. Rockefeller's bio is in your program, and all I want to ask you to look at, because I really want to highlight it, is the fact that he clearly is carrying on a family tradition of service. In addition to being on the RBF board, he is a life trustee of the Museum of Modern Art, a board member of the Asian Cultural Council, a fellow at the Academy of Arts and Sciences, among many others. Mr. Rockefeller, please join us.
Thank you so much, Rana. It's wonderful to be here with so many familiar faces from at least 40 years of philanthropy. I would like especially to acknowledge Darren Walker. Has he come into the room? He's backstage. But anyway, I want to salute him. He's a longtime friend to my family and to many family institutions. And certainly I salute you, Rana, who worked with Lucas Haynes to make this award possible. So thank you, Lucas, right there in the front row. It is my pleasure and privilege to bestow on Mike Pratt the inaugural David Rockefeller Leadership Award for Outstanding Board Service. Mike has already been feted, as you see, at today's board meeting, but in a couple of minutes we will present a check to him that will be given at his direction to Riders Alliance. But before doing so, I would like to say a few words about my father's commitment to board service and why the David Rockefeller Fund decided to memorialize those values in this award. Simply put, my father took enormous pleasure in his philanthropic activities. They included decades of board service and leadership at many institutions which received his gifts, but only some of which bore the family name. Now, why did he give so much of his time to board service? His family would sometimes ask. The answer reflects the values he inherited from his father and passed down to his own family, including the trustees of the foundation that now bears his name, the David Rockefeller Fund. He knew that the long-term health of nonprofit institutions is vital to ensuring the positive impact of grant-making. He learned that the gift of one's time, while not always more valuable than money, could help multiply the impact of a gift or leverage others' goodwill and generosity. As a private sector leader, he also knew that nonprofits need as much board leadership talent as profit-making corporations do. And he learned over time that there was a direct correlation between the quality of a board and the long-term quality of an organization's program. Which brings me back to this award and the DR Fund's purpose in creating it with Philanthropy New York. We know that this city is richer for the diverse array of foundations and grant makers within the region. Philanthropy New York is a vital institution at the heart of that ecosystem. And my father, David Rockefeller, always wanted philanthropy in his home region to thrive. The DR Fund believes one modest way that we can contribute is to recognize outstanding, uncompensated board service, a civic role my father devoted so much of his life to modeling. Now, we hope this award is deeply meaningful to its first recipient, a truly wonderful NGO leader, and we also are grateful to remember my father today. In fact, I'm wearing one of his ties that he would buy every year when he went to Paris. It's a Charvet tie, just in case you wanted to know that. So on behalf of the DR Fund's board and staff, I'm pleased to bestow the first David Rockefeller Leadership Award for Outstanding Board Service to Mike Pratt, Chair of Philanthropy New York and President of the Sherman Foundation. Mike.
Actually,
oh,
look,
we are.
It's fun.
All right. Great.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
I just want to say thank you. So it's so meaningful to me, this award, Riders Alliance. I started out my nonprofit career as an organizer in the subways and the Strap Hangers campaign. So this is sort of an amazing return to those roots. It's triply honor, and I promise I'm not going to change my last name to Alliance or Riders or anything like that. So if there is no further business to come before this meeting, that's a question, sorry. Hearing none, I declare the 40th Annual Business Meeting of the Members of Philanthropy New York adjourned. Thank you.